Hello and welcome to Ula Tea Leaf Readings. My name is Lenor and tonight I'm going to be reading your tea leaves. This is a horoscope for Aries. If Aries is your solar, lunar, ascendant / rising sign, then this is a message for you. All right, Aries, let's get started. And so tonight we have the Wheel of Fortune, decisions to be made. All right, and let's go ahead and take a look and see what these tea leaves are going to show us tonight. And so if you have not subscribed yet, please think about doing that. You can hit that little bell. It'll let you know when the next readings are coming out. It is free to subscribe. Also, if you'd like to hit the like button or leave a comment, please do. I'd love to hear from you, especially if you're new to the channel. Shout it out in the comments. All right. Okay, so we have quite a struggle here. I feel like this is it seems like, oh, and there's the face. We have a relationship that is just it seems a little volatile. It seems like it's a ongoing, long, just years almost. I almost feel like this is years of back and forth. Getting together, breaking up. Maybe seeing other people, maybe even getting married to somebody else, and then when that ends, going back to this person. It just seems to be very, like, you can't get over one another. Now, I just want to look at this face because it really, once I turned it and saw it, I was like, okay, that's really profoundly, it's a striking image. So we have the eyes, we have the nose, we have the mouth, we have, maybe it's the bindi or a representation of the third eye of an awakening. Okay. And I do feel like you are in a place in your life where I see another person here with they're standing, their arms are raised, right? Above it, we have the crab. And I feel like it's really awakening to your needs. And I believe that you've spent so much of your life kind of, now, it's not that you are just a pushover and you're living your life for other people and you don't know yourself or you put yourself last or whatever it is like this. But no, I think it is a sense of, it's a sense of duty, but it's also kind of, I think for you, it's like I find happiness in my people being happy. My kids, my family members, my parents, maybe even my significant other. If they're happy, then I'm happy. Okay? But I feel like in this time, there's been this shift where maybe the configuration of things has changed a little bit. Maybe your responsibilities, your amount of involvement has kind of shifted a little bit. And there's this room for you to really be looking at your own journey, your own life, and coming to the realization that in this next period of time, it feels like a period of cultivation, of exploring self, of kind of realigning your world to yeah, and I think it is the spiritual, the divine, finding a greater meaning, maybe even a greater purpose, right? To your reason for living. Now, of course, our family is always going to be right there at the top. And I think reasonably so. I think it's often the first and most important thing to people. I get that, as a mom, as a wife and family member, I get that. But we always have our relationship with the divine. We always have our relationship with those beloved things, right? Beloved beings, intelligences, passions that arise in our lives. It's always there for us, right? If we have the time to spend with it or not, it's not something that, you build up, and because you're not actively partaking in your spiritual life, it doesn't atrophy, right? Now, the tools and techniques, yeah, you might lose touch with, but the actual energies of spirit, of divinity, of belovedness, those do not go away. Now, I feel like in this time, this is you realigning yourself with those efforts, with that lifestyle, with your ability to put attention on this part of your life. So I see you kind of getting back into a place of, however it manifests for you, whatever, maybe you go to church, mosque, temple, maybe you're a solitary practitioner, or somebody who activates spirit, the divine within self-work and psychology, or within your passions, your hobbies, your learning, your application of such. Whatever it is, I see that this is a time where, you're in there. You're really in this mode of being, whatever it is. Maybe you start going back to yoga classes. You start, join like a prayer circle, or, I'm trying to think, join a book club, or I don't know what it is exactly. But I do think that there's a sense of where maybe there is an open space, there's a quiet, right, in your life, a slowing down. And I keep thinking it's like when the kids, they get old enough, right, to kind of do their own thing. They're making their own food. They're getting themselves to school. They are, maybe going off and getting married and having their own home and career and, all these kinds of things. And, of course, they still need you in a lot of ways, but yeah, it does. It opens up the space. Or maybe the same, like retiring, going into kind of a post-work mode, and you look at this kind of expansive amount of time where you've always been very busy and working since you can, your first memories, it feels like, and now you're faced with kind of, well, what am I going to do here? How am I going to spend my days? And I feel that it really is kind of this emergence of feeling very connected to your faith, to your spiritual impulses and interests and so on. Now, with the crab, I feel that this is something that really is happening so much on the interior. Now, it maybe hasn't manifested in the physical as much, but it will. And I see you really starting to partake in physical world acts. And that would be like, yeah, going back to church, right? Or beginning to go to church, going to that yoga class, doing those postures, keeping an altar, getting into divination, actually doing it in the physical world, right? Where I think a lot of it is happening inside right now. You know, you're going through these it's like walking into the house, right? If you could imagine your mind being a house, your spirit being a house, you walk in, you start to turn on the lights, right? And everything's becoming illuminated. And as you are kind of processing and taking in and immersing yourself in the rooms of that home, right? They become again familiar because you've been there. You've been there your whole existence. But now, you know, there is a light being shone upon all of the features of the room and also self, right? And so I see you really, yes, cultivating quite an interior landscape, but also allowing it to pour out into your daily living. And I think that it really changes the atmosphere of how your life is, right? I think even just in a practical sense, the feeling of your home changes. There is a different energy there. You maybe even start wearing some different colors or different kinds of clothing. Maybe, spending your time doing things in the physical that are a little bit different than they have been. And overall, I think, you know, you will have these moments where you see people you maybe haven't seen in a while and they say to you, you feel different. You know, you just have this glow about you. You seem, refreshed and rejuvenated. And I think that it's your ability to kind of really spend some time with things that feel quite meaningful to you. Now, we have a person standing here. You can see they have like maybe a dress, a robe, something. They're holding up, it looks to me like a paintbrush. Okay, so quite literally, I wonder if there will be some kind of painting happening, or this is the thing, is it feels almost like there's a change of color in your life. Painting the walls of your rooms, changing the clothes, like I said, changing the color of clothes you've been wearing. I feel like you're coming into a time where you're attracted to maybe just a whole different aesthetic or a vibe. I keep thinking purples for some reason, like different kinds of purples or kind of a purpley red color. That's what keeps coming to mind here. And maybe it's because we have the Wheel of Fortune, right? But it's not so much that purple. It feels more like a wine color, maybe like a plum color. But I feel like there's a real belovedness in this kind of recreating of this refurbishing, remodeling, a makeover kind of energy. Now, we also have the boat behind, right? And so that tells me that there is this real intentional energy put into this transmutation that you are going through. I think sometimes we get into these places where we think, am I going through like a midlife crisis? Am I, what's going on? Am I getting like a little bit stir crazy, a little bit, shifting around and feeling, like, something has to change. I gotta, like, you know, move the furniture around. I need something different, you know. Is it something like this, or is this really like it's like the tectonic plates of my life are shifting around, right? You know, things are really kind of, there's a rumbling. There is kind of the tremors. Yeah, I was like, what are the ones beforehand? Yes, tremors. Coming, because there's going to be a huge shift in your consciousness. And I think a lot of that has to do with your ability to have time to think about things. You know, I think you've just been so busy for so long, and you're coming into this space where there's just a little bit more time. And I see you really finding something for yourself, maybe for the first time in a long time. It's just for you. You don't have to, kind of hope, do the kids like this? Are they going to complain? Are they going to be bored? Is my spouse going to be annoyed that we have to go do this thing? Or, I'm don't have time to, juggle everything, the family time and the me time and the work time and the, house stuff and whatever. But now your life is shifted in such a way where, you do have some time. And there is kind of this real evolution happening, right? This kind of, if you could imagine your world being surrounded and filled with plants, they are all coming into bloom. They are absolutely thriving. And there is this rising consciousness. And this is, I think, one of the beautiful times of your life. It is, it might feel almost kind of like a loss in a way, because how things were, it's changing and it looks different. And you might be thinking like, I've had a reason to be up and moving and doing all this stuff, and everybody needs something from me, and that feels chaotic at times, and I'm tired often, but it's meaningful, and I enjoy being there for my people and all of this. So then when it kind of slows down and maybe they're a little more self-sufficient or busy with things, it can kind of feel maybe a little lonely, maybe a sense of loss even. Maybe feeling like, there's a need to refocus and so on. But I see you finding this for yourself and beginning to really thrive within this kind of newly formed reality. Now, I see we have a person standing here next to a large flower. We also have a bird above. And below, we also have a person who's reaching out for this heart, and it looks like the Sacred Heart. Okay? This is the imagery usually used in Catholicism of a heart that is a flame, right? And this is a symbol for agape, or the belovedness between devotee and deity, goddess. And I feel like through this work, you are coming into a place of, having the sight, receiving some kind of mediumship, the ability to channel, some kind of clairvoyance. Now, it's always been there. It's always been there. But I think in this time where there's an absence of noise, and I think the noise really is the busyness of life, you are able to see where you are very connected to spirit. You are really somebody who is quite intuitive. But beyond that, I think that you are connected with the other side quite deeply. And the dreams will quicken here. I think that you're going to be having more communications with whatever intelligence, the guardian angel, maybe even deceased loved ones. It could be your ancestors, elders, elementals, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, whatever it feels like. This imagery, these messages will be coming through quite potently during this time, coming up here in this cycle that you're in. And I feel you really flourishing here. I feel like there's not a sense of fear where, yeah, I mean, reasonably so. I think often when people have this kind of fever pitch of psychic phenomena happening, it can be quite destabilizing. It can make you feel like, what is going on? Am I going crazy? Am I reading too much into coincidences and just stuff my brain is working through? Absolutely. But I feel like for you, you know that this is something more meaningful, that this is something profound, that this is something that, yes, it's not only do you likely have these abilities, but it runs in the family. And I think that that's the thing, is it's not scary because you've seen this before. You have family members who have the sight, family members who have the ability to commune, and so on. So I feel like this is a time where it's really kind of, the initiation into these deeper realms of self. And you go quite willingly. And it is something that it's quite sacred. It is quite sacred. And I could see you moving towards, really becoming some kind of initiate, high priestess, hierophant, some kind of maybe even leadership within some kind of system or within your religious community. Now we also have, it looks like HA. Okay, so HA. With all of this being said, and it feels very serious, I feel like there's also a real sense of joy, of lightheartedness, of being able to laugh and just really kind of get into that merriment of it all. And I feel like as you are having more time to kind of be yourself and do the things that you are realizing you've wanted to do, it is lifting away some of the old layers, right? The things that you've had to develop for and about yourself to get through the mundane world. So some of that stuff is really falling away. And I feel like there's just a sense of lightness, of laughter. That's the big thing, laughing and enjoying, just being happy, right? In general. And that's lovely. I love to see that. Absolutely. Especially with the fortune card. Not always the card that because it spins both ways, doesn't it? But when I see that it's bringing a lot of joy. That's a wonderful thing. Now, let's take a look. We have the number 21. 21. Now, I feel like as you are getting into this place of receiving messages, there can be some... I feel like you get kind of transmissions for other people, right? You start dreaming about other people's situations, maybe their loved ones coming through for them. And I feel like this is something that you haven't necessarily had a lot of experience with. And it can feel... Because listen, Aries people... You all really have this vibe of like, I stay in my own lane, I mind my own business, right? And I think generally that's why, well, it's one of the reasons I really love Aries people, because you're focused on your own stuff, your own, you know, your family, your work, your creativity, what's going on in the house, and, you know, whatever, this kind of stuff. And I've always thought that that makes Aries such a solid person. I mean, and also very interesting, because you're not always just stuck in the dramas, right? The human dramas going on around you. So when you start kind of seeing into people's spiritual emanations and the messages coming through for them and so on, that can feel kind of almost like, is this my business? Is this invasive? And what do I do with it? Right? What do I do? Do I tell the person? Do I go, hey, you don't know me. We're in the grocery store together. Your grandma's coming through. She wants me to tell, you know. How do you broach those situations? And I don't know, you know, for me, I do general readings. I'll do personal readings as well, but they, you know, people have to seek me out. I don't just read for people generally. Like, I meet people, I might get, you know, things coming through. I don't necessarily ever say anything to somebody unless they ask me. That's just me. But I'm also very introverted, right? So I feel like this is something that you are going to have to be thinking about. How are you going to go about this? And do not let it deter you. There are ways to kind of build up, they are kind of psychic walls, so that you are not receiving so much of this kind of information. And again, like I always like to shout out, go check out Dion Fortune's Psychic Self-Defense. Absolutely so helpful in these transient kind of emanations that come through, energies, and so on. Okay. Now let's do our self-care card. I'm going to go ahead and we'll flip through. I'm going to stop where it feels right. Okay, it says, the tranquil oasis. I design my tranquil space. Just as meditation quiets the mind, a tranquil space brings peace to my environment. I simplify and organize my surroundings to cultivate an environment of peace. I am relaxed and at ease in my body, and my home is a tranquil oasis. And my home is a tranquil oasis. I love it. All right, Aries, I'm going to go ahead and tell you I love you, because I do, and I thank you so much for spending this time with me. It is always such an honor to be able to bring these messages to you. And if you would be so kind as to like the video, it really does help the channel. And if you have not subscribed yet, please think about doing that. You can hit that little bell. It'll let you know when the next readings are coming out. It is free to subscribe. And if you'd like to leave a comment, I'd love to hear from you. All right. With that, I will tell you again, I love you. Take care of yourself. We will talk real soon.